Oh, Steve's still in wheels. Evening, everyone. Yeah, welcome back. Been a little while, a few weeks. Had a holiday. I know a few of you have been missing our Wednesday nights. Yeah, so here we are. Got plenty of questions lined up. As ever, please just drop in any new ones that you have got for us to work through. It's been an absolute scorcher today. I'm quite glad to be out of sun, to be honest with you. And if I do start flagging a little bit, please forgive me. I've sort of been at it since 4:30, and yeah, I'm feeling it to say the least. But there we are. So I'm flying solo tonight because there's a few things I sort of want to tackle and cover and just have a chat about, which will hopefully sort of steer the conversation. Obviously, I'd like you guys to chip in as much as you can as well. And this has basically come from comments, direct messages, bits and bobs that I get on a regular basis. And yeah, I'm going to start with one of the more sort of good vibes at the minute, which was quite a nice one to get in today. Guy, one of our, he's a regular viewer across the channels, Richard Brunton. And this was the message I got from him, which was just a delight to hear. So based on the latest Koi Talk video. So two things regarding discussion, food and trickling. After watching your videos when you first started doing them, I decided to give Saki Ikari a go and stop the trickling. Ricky, I did ask him to let him know what the results were. Well, we're only into June and my koi behaviours are better than I've ever had. Fish are very active, looking for food, and just generally look very healthy. Also, the constant problem I had with flashing and all, the scrapes were showing nothing and have literally disappeared. It's either a big coincidence or changes have been for the greater good. I think there's no coincidence there. Fair to say the changes are for the greater good, and that sort of brings me on to where I want to start really this evening. And this is all, you know, it's a drum I've been banging all along with this is simplicity, and the simplicity of keeping koi, because it seems to be there's an interesting bit of pushback sometimes when I'm getting DMs and we're sort of getting into a conversation that it seems to be that without the complication they can't justify what they're doing or the advice that I'm giving. And I think there's a few fundamental problems here of stuff that's been banged into people's heads for years and years and years about the way things should be done, or the amount of different opinions and topics out there on the internet, example, in different groups, and even when you're banging stuff into Google, the different answers and conflicting answers that you get. So, I mean, all I want to say is, you know, throughout me doing all this, I just wanted, the whole sort of aim is to get people really enjoying koi, try and take all the hassle out, get the simplicity, show it can be done on any kind of budget, any kind of level, share the knowledge and experience that I've got to make everybody's koi keeping journey easier. And don't get me wrong, if you want to overcomplicate it, you can, but trust me, guys, there's a lot of stuff I'm seeing where it just seems to be people are looking for problems and creating their own hassles. You know, the advice that I'm giving out is based on experience and experience alone. You know, I've got no formal education in this, no degrees. I've just got over 20 years already of experience from doing this from a young age at an incredible level commercially. You know, handling thousands and thousands of fish a year, doing it here, seeing how it's done in Japan, and really learning from them guys on a level that very few get to experience. And obviously in sharing that and trying to get this style of koi keeping over, trust me, it will just transform the hobby for you if you can listen, pay attention, make some of the changes. You know, Richard comments there just go to show it's not the only ones I've had that said these simple changes going a long way. I've got no commercial motivations through any of this. I'm not trying to sell you guys anything, just simply make things better and easier for you where I can. So one of the ones that sort of ties into this was a conversation I've just been having recently with a guy in my DMs as well, and the topic of nitrate come up, NO3. So yeah, it basically went on, and the first sort of premise of this guy, and hopefully if this, I won't mention his name, but if he's watching, feel free to you know chip in here as well. But The premise of it was that he basically didn't think his fish were eating enough. So very simply, I said, well, are the fish growing? The answer was yes. But, you know, in his opinion, looking a little bit veiny, possibly not eating enough. And the finger was being pointed straight to nitrate. Now, nitrate's an interesting one because, like a lot of other topics, there's very, very little, I feel, good information out there, incredible information that truly points a finger at you know, nitrate being a problem and the problems that it can actually create and the symptoms it creates. The only one I see is very generic stuff sort of online, which you can see it's sort of being probably copied from a textbook, in all honesty. It's not all that impressive. And that's worrying for me when you're getting information like that and banding it around. Again, all the information I give is based on experience, my experience. And when I'm keeping koi, through that experience, and I am aware that obviously if you guys haven't got that, you need other mechanisms until you build that experience. But trust me, I think one of the biggest things here is the need and the simplicity to focus more on actually paying attention to the fish, looking at the fish and not just looking at everything else all of the time. And when I say all of the else, I mean water testing. Obviously, it's drummed in for years. You need to be really proactive with water testing. The problem with that, when you're screening the full degree of parameters, and I think this might have happened in this case, is that all of a sudden everything's checking out, everything's fine. There's nothing else visibly you can sort of see in the environment that you think can be a cause. So all of a sudden we've got, you know, ammonia no problem, nitrite no problem, and bang, there's this nitrate in there. That must be the cause because there's degrees of it in there. When you look it up on Google, all of a sudden, my God, that matches all the symptoms. Not to mention that most of these symptoms can match 20 other potential problems in there as well. And this is what really scares me. You know, I'm looking at the fish, so everything I'm doing, I'm going to be complete. I'm really open with you, even if I get slaughtered for this. I really don't care because it needs to be known. The amount I test water is very infrequently. And because I don't need to, we can read the environment incredibly well, even down to probably knowing from fish behavior if there's a parasite infestation, possibly what parasites actually causing it. This is the way I've watched the Japanese do this for years. You know, you mentioned test kits out there, they just look at you with a completely blank face. And it's just wild, honestly. But you see how they raise fish, and they get absolutely incredible results that we all aspire to. And I'd like to say, and I'm confident when I say, it's the same results I'm getting myself. You know, you guys have seen my fish, you've seen what I'm doing with the fish, and this is all through observation. The one we do test frequently, which is completely necessary, is KH, and that's just knowing the circumstances of my environment, the heavy feeding, the way I keep fish. We burn a lot of KH. I've got to keep on it because I know KH holds everything together. I know when the KH disappears, we get problems in the filter system with nitrite, if left long enough, ammonia, and the last thing you want is a pH crash because they are nasty and you can lose a lot of fish in a very short period of time if you're not careful. So I know generally if I've got the KH all right, with this system setup that I've got and observing the fish, I am leaving everything else there well alone unless something tells me I need to investigate and look at them. Now, that's probably in sharp contrast to what gets drummed into a lot of people where they're proactively water testing, you know, every week or whatever it is. And very quickly there, you can possibly point out a problem that's not really a problem. Get me? I.e., there all of a sudden you've got a nitrate staring at you like, my God, this must be causing an issue. And you look at them symptoms, you match it all together, and before you know, you might even be seeing a problem that's not actually truly there, in all honesty. And yeah, feeding, you know, this particular case, there was 5 fish in, I can't remember what it was. I think it was about 1,500 gallons, something like that. So, you know, they're not going to be eating masses of food. The fish behavior itself is going to change for sure, because there's not the pack mentality, there's not the strength in numbers. So they're going to be a little bit scatty. I investigated into the feeding a little bit more. You know, there's feed dropping in there every hour, constantly over long periods of time, which for me, it's not the way I do it either. And then I look at, you know, the guy's gone because this nitrate reading, he thinks it's causing these problems. All of a sudden, RO water has been introduced for the topping up to try and lower the nitrate. Now, I truly believe that's not the problem there, and what's going off, to be honest with you. And then yeah, the sort of nitrate thing rumbled on a bit more, and I've been in a couple of groups and just seeing, you know, people's thoughts on it, because I know there's not a lot of knowledge out there other than it's relatively harmless in a lot of cases now, it says. And then when you look it up, it stunts fish growth, reduces appetite, loads and loads of different things there that the books and the internet articles are telling you. So right now I'm going to dive into, I'm sure a lot of you guys have been following the Shinoda Heotsuri grow out from this year, the fish that came in back at October at 6 to 12 cm. So just bear with me 1 minute. And while I'm trying to find this, guys, if you wouldn't mind, please hit that like button, share button as well to get this video out there, so we can get the message and the information in front of as many people as possible. Now, yeah, given what we said, so these typical symptoms of nitrate: reddening in the fins, they're saying reduced appetite, sort of sluggish behavior, you know, loss of growth. So I'm going to show you a video. Many of you probably seen this. I just shot this on my phone. It's not the best one. This is the Shinoda Heotsuri pond. Where they are after the last selection. This was literally just shot 2 days ago. There's 110 fish in there, 3,500 gallon. Now got the Profi drum shower on there, sorry, which you might have seen the video for that as well, which has made a big difference. And you can see there, you know, you can't see it in detail, but you can see the behavior. Super, super active. They are like that every minute of the day. When I walk in there, they're like it. Straight after a big feed, they're like it. You cannot fill these fish enough. I'm romping through the feeding levels as it stands. We'll just see them there again. Behavior is absolutely flawless. Skin condition is absolutely shining, gleaming. Bodies are building well. I mean, these are up probably now 35 cm on average. I reckon there's one that must be getting close to 40. And like I say, there's 110 fish there in that 3,500 gallon pond. So bearing in mind everything you will read about nitrate, all the rest of it, evidence there. Those fish come into me 6 to 12 centimeters back in October. That's where they are. Stocking levels, etc. Everything that a lot of you guys probably won't even consider entertaining. And let me just share with you, out of curiosity, I did a nitrate test on this pond yesterday, and there we have it, guys. It's a bad one. I think that's probably hitting somewhere between the 50 and hundreds milligram per litre mark. So I've got plenty of it in there for sure. You see on the Colombo test. Yet without looking, there's nothing there in that pond that's pointing me towards there being a problem in there. Everything is absolutely excelling, and those fish have been in there for a considerable amount of time now. There will be by the end of the season when even with the heavily stocked pond, those fish will be around 50 cm on average as Nisai. So just my point being there, I think it's too easy to go looking for problems and just looking at what's in front of you with the fish. They will tell you absolutely everything you need to know, and learning to read what they're doing, when things are right, when things are wrong. When things are right, leave the hell alone. Really just leave them alone. And yeah, if something's wrong, by all means, investigate at that point. I get, you know, if you're very new to koi keeping, you need something as a bit of a guide, but learning to behave the fish first, learning to, you know the fish behavior is going to get you a long way. You know, when there is a problem, that's when you get everything out there, especially in an established pond. It makes sense to be on it a little bit more in an immature system, because there's a lot to look at there and consider. And yeah, changing parameters, but in a mature system with, you know, not a lot changing all the time, you don't need to be doing all that much, and constant tinkering that I see a lot, you know, can upset things. When you've got things good, leave it. This is what happens with my growing ponds. When we get them settled, they're on it. There'll be no medications going in there. I absolutely refuse to net fish as well. We don't proactively scrape them. I'm just literally observing on what's going on. If something starts looking off, obviously at that point, I will deal with it. And yeah, Chris popping up there. If you look hard enough, you'll find problems. And I do believe this is what's happening out there too much, to be honest. So yeah, a little bit of a rant, that one, to be fair. But just wanted to highlight there, certainly in that last snippet, there's nothing there indicating to me with that batch of fish. You can all see it that there's an issue. Yet clearly, if you want to look, there's excessively high nitrate, and it doesn't look to be causing them any problems. So there's a reason that I managed to keep so many fish looking so good with so few people, as well, to be honest with you. And it's just that experience and doing the right things, everything as well. And this is another thing, every decision we make is based around what's best for the fish as well, and what the fish are telling us. And I think sometimes that can get in the way as well, where decisions are being based around more what the hobbyist wants rather than what's best for the fish sometimes. So just please, guys, honestly, keep it simple. It's really one I will keep banging. I'll keep sharing the knowledge and experience with you guys. And like I say, happy, you drop me them DMs to get on it. But it's nice to know that it's actually sinking in and being listened to, because trust me, it can make your koi keeping journey so much easier by just simplifying it all. And the trickle in, trickle out one, again, just mentioned there from Richard's message. So I'll read from that. Crafty Koi. Same when I build, not incorporate trickle in, trickle out, been water changing and clean queue. That's not had any issues with quality, and you won't do. So we'll just keep trying to bring the information. And the trickle in, trickle out is still a big one for me. It's just not one I can advocate at this minute in time, knowing how changeable the water circumstances are. And I hear all the little things as well, like I've got a big blue, double big blue, whatever it is, and you're testing your chlorine, chloramines, that they're not the full picture. Remember, there's a lot of other stuff going on in that water with potential metals. When we've had Chris at Elite on here, I think we've mentioned the amount he's been doing on copper testing and finding problems in pond after pond after pond with copper issues as well, and tracing it back. So you've really got to be careful what you're putting in there. And remember, this is an ecosystem that you're building. And when you let that ecosystem, you interfere with it as little as possible, you're going to create a really strong, robust environment that to some degree will look after itself and save you a lot of problems there. So there we have it with that one. Just before I get on to any more questions, here's another one, because this was in response to the latest video I posted regarding the Backy shower, where someone was questioning sort of size of the spray bar, the flow over it, and the fact that obviously I'm pumping straight out the bottom of the pond over the shower. I think questioning, how much waste is actually going to build up on that filter. Now, remembering that I've had 2 of these running for it's about a year now, I think, running flat out continuously in ponds that are heavily stocked, heavily fed, as they always are, I thought I'd just grab a quick video on my phone to show you. I literally lifted the lid off the top of this, and here it is for you to see how this looks after a full year of pumping out the bottom of that pond in a heavily stocked, heavily fed pond. So that's the media, bacteria, home media. Unless, I'm missing something, all I can see there is incredibly well-matured media with a nice, healthy, the color of the biofilm in there on that. No heavy debris, no sludge, nothing there that the media can't handle and can't process. So just one more time for everybody. You can see it there. It's a comment I made actually in that video, is the importance is for my mind, with the velocity of the water in there, there's no real way, any heavy particles are going to get grounded by the pump right down, spread over that media. There is obviously a main filter system on there, the drum and the bio, the fluid bed. So all that waste on there is getting sprayed over the thing. And the comment I made was the importance that biological filtration plays in mechanical filtration. If we look at the EA Tempest filter, the whole concept of it is you don't get the results until the biofilm on the media is matured, and at that point it can strip down to a micron in size. And and it's all done through a biological process. And that's the whole point with that filter media. You know, when it matures up, what waste is getting put onto the media in a healthy environment, that the filter, the biological filter, is going to be breaking down that waste as well as a food source. It's just important we don't overwhelm it and choke it up, which that was never going to happen given the velocity of the water passing over all that filter. And they work perfectly well. And I thought that'd just be an interesting one to share with all you guys, because again, it's a really simple setup. You know, it's not having to run through. It's literally pump straight out the pond, up, over, and doing a grand job. You can see from the Heliosaurs, I mean, they have just, you know, their behaviour's changed so much since that went on. I believe partly down to the degassing effect and the increased oxygen saturation that it's brought at that point. But impressive bit of kit. So bear with me a second while I'm just going to fly through some of the comments and questions and see what we've got to go at that you guys have been posting in. Well, Karen, hi. What do you look for in Kajaku, and who's the breeder you go to for Kajaku? This is an interesting one, actually. Me and Chris were having a chat about this, that we've not really had too many decent Kajaku kicking about recently. Kajaku is all about the luster, all about the shine, to be honest with you. They are inherently got an issue with bodies. Kajaku, they tend to be a very stout fish and can get really big bellies. You've got to watch out for that. The Kaneko Kajaku, they've suffered badly with that for years. They had some of the best Benny, admittedly, but suffered horribly with the bodies. When it comes to Kajaku right now, for me, Afuchi does some amazing Kajaku, gets the body good, admittedly probably a little bit too thin. Sometimes it can be quite hard to stack the volume on his Kajaku, but quality-wise does really well. But I think it's undeniable that the king of this variety right now is Omasako. He sort of, obviously, you know, it started off as a little hobby sort of project for him, but where they've got to with him, these guys are absolutely dominating. You'll see a famous one on one of the issues, the covers of Koi Talk magazine. Absolutely superb. I mean, that fish won, I can't remember which award it was, but it was one of the top honours at the All Japan, beating Go Sankey out in that category as well. Just phenomenal. They've corrected the body issue. They're getting the size. They've got the luster, which is incredibly important. You know, that head shine, fin shine, and the rest of the body. Looking at the Fukurin as well, incredibly important with Kajaku to get that. They are a challenging variety, have been for years, to be honest with you. But Omasako, as they did with Shirotsuori, to be honest, has really changed the game with Kajaku as well. They've got shine on a level that I've not seen, and like I say, fixed all of these other problems as well. So if you're looking for one, to be honest with you, I probably wouldn't look much further than them guys. Not the easiest to get, but it's a super lineage, and respect to what they've done with that, to be honest with you. Absolutely incredible. Interesting question down there, just tied in. How long does it take for an ecosystem to establish? Yeah, so I mean, you can tend to get sort of biological stability within your filter after 3 to 6 months. You know, you can skip the ammonia cycle through pretty quickly, especially if you've got warm water. Nitrite's a bit of a different beast because that bacteria takes a little bit longer to stabilize. But I think realistically, you're looking a bare minimum of 6 to 12 months, or really a full year, to get the basis of the ecosystem established, and then you build from there on. But like I say, you really want to be, you know, sort of leaving it to it a little bit. If you are trickling and flooding shitloads of water through all the time, you're creating an imbalance in that. You know, the ecosystem's tilting more towards, you know, the source water than the actual environment itself, to be honest. So time. Realistically, I think we're looking at 12 months before we're anywhere close. And this is bearing in mind, you know, you're establishing even right down to the algae coating on the walls and the equilibrium that finds. You know, I never have to treat for blanket weed unless we take the fish out of the pond, you know, which at that point is causing an imbalance in the system there, because the fish are a big part of it. Obviously, they're eating it, but all of a sudden you change something like that, and it's well out of whack. So interesting point, but yeah, I think we're looking 12 months minimum. You just build from there on, and like I say, minimal amount of interference. This is one thing I loved, and I will always stick with K1 as the main biological filter, because that fluid bed and that system seems to, for me, created the best ecosystem I've seen over the years, and as the foundation of any pond. Yeah, I don't think you can beat that at all. So right, a bit of a longer one here from Lee. Keeping koi 3 years now, coming out this winter, I've lost 3 out of my 7 koi. Been struggling with fin rot. Tried everything I can think of. Coming out of winter, I had fluke and trick treated, but can't koi are free of parasites and water spot on. I've stripped my filter down, cleaned vacuum the base, bond, treat like a flavin, salt, last work. My koi don't seem to get any better. Right, Lee, at this point, to be honest with you, I think, if fin rot is a form of bacterial infection, so unless there's been some sort of physical damage, i.e., some ammonia burnage or something like that, which might have caused it, it is a bacterial problem that you probably want to get addressed properly. So I would suggest, to be honest with you, just coming to mind, because they're working with Yoss a lot, you could possibly get in touch with the guys at Elite or any other dealer who can offer some kind of screening service for you to possibly get the water analysed, see what's going on a little bit there, see what the sort of bacteria count's like in the water, and possibly then even further look to have fish analysed, because you might need more help. Acroflavin, salt baths, all this, they're all right to use if you basically just got superficial damage, i.e., if the damage had been caused by ammonia burnage, for example, on the fins, acroflavin would be great there just to sort of soothe it. Salt baths, all the rest of it. But what you're doing, Virkon, yes, you can reduce the bacteria levels, but what happens is when you sort of bring that down is bacteria is just coming back, and it can tend to come back in larger numbers, again, when you've affected the balance of that as well. So definitely, I think you need help there beyond what you're possibly able to look at and screen to get to the bottom of what's actually causing it. And yeah, get on there. I don't know how bad your fluke and trick was. That could have possibly been a catalyst if it is a bacterial problem there that's at the heart of it. So yeah, don't delay. Get on with that. Seek some further help. If you're struggling to find somebody, drop me a private message on Messenger or something, and I'll help steer you in the right direction. I've actually got Yoss coming in, I think, on Friday as well. He's back in the UK. So, again, just working on trying to get his services out there for people as much as possible for when problems like this arise. Well, we've got Martin Stammers, long time no speak. Yeah, Martin came on a Japan trip with me some years back with a dealer. So, hope you're doing well, Martin. What do you call heavy feeding on your Hiyotsuri pond? I've not measured it recently, but knowing where them feeders are at right now, I know it's well in excess, probably about 1.1 to 1.2 kilos a day right now as it stands. And it's being increased as well. It's actually had another increase today because I work to a feeding window. So I try and get as much feed within them in a 5-minute period, sometimes 10 minutes, depending what I'm doing. I can't get these over 1 minute 20 at the minute. They're just absolutely nailing it, but the pond's looking great. It looks like it can take more, certainly with the addition of the shower. So yeah, they're going to be getting a lot more. I can see it very, very soon hitting about 1.5 kilos plus per day for sure. And I can't wait to see how that pond actually just performs when it gets to that point, because it's going to be a new level for me at that stage as well. So yeah, really good test for the shower. Let's have a look. DT Koi. Do you think there needs to be more done on the bacteria? Well, absolutely. Again, I'm not going to the problem of bacteria testing. The issue is as well, obviously, we speak to a lot of people whenever dealers have got customers who are having issues that we can't they can't find the right people to help with it. It'll come back to me. It's amazing how many vets out there. Obviously, when antibiotics are needed, vets are the only person to get it. All the new regulations, the guys just don't really seem to care all that much, to be honest with you. Not very helpful in getting the product. What's needed, getting out. It can be an expensive process as well. I've seen that happening, whereby the costs are prohibitive for getting the vet out there, because I think the process is, at the very least, the vet's got to come and have a visit to the pond to make sure everything sort of checks out, and yeah, then it's not a cheap process, but yeah, absolutely more needs to be done. And again, I know Yoss is working on a lot of this stuff. It's just as everything, things take time, and it can take time to roll out and get into places. But yeah, for me, it's just not, because no matter how much, if you've got a full-blown bacterial problem, no matter how much you chuck stuff into the water, it's never going to rectify it. It can keep it at bay, possibly hold it back, but most of the time it's not going to rectify it at all. So yeah, let's see where we get with that one, to be honest with you, over time. So what else we got? Which koi farmers empty showers and useful for us? Is useful for us koi keepers. It really depends on the circumstances. It's actually at Sakai where I've seen it. So they're a sort of square tiered shower, 3 tiers. The water comes in at some serious velocity. But bearing in mind, the amount of filtration these ponds have got already. So the whole strategy around there is purely for degassing. And yeah, degassing is going to have a mass impact on your water, but you're also going to get some of that rub from having a shower anyway. So if you are putting one on, my advice would be to still get some media in there. Just take advantage of that extra biological capacity that you can add. Different bacteria sort of colonies and groups that live on that media as well, being the sort of wet dry effect that it has. Yeah, that would be, I'd still say take full advantage, seeing as though you're going to the cost of having the shower. The units generally aren't cheap, so take full advantage of it and get a bit of media in there as well. You just don't need to go overboard with the media that you put in there. Most things will suffice doing the job, because it's the concept and the action of the shower here that's doing a lot of the good. And in that instance, with the empty one, that goes to prove that it's for a degassing effect, and it's doing exactly that. But they were set up in a very specific way to really smash that water to pieces. Well, interesting, very interesting when I saw it, that's for sure. Good question. Louis New, hi mate, how often do you do a water stop in the summer? New to it, so looking for advice. So obviously, if you've got a pond level maintained, depending on your system, obviously if you're pump fed, it's a little bit different. If you're gravity fed, you've got to keep a certain water level in your system anyway. If you're pump fed, obviously there'll be a level that you're wanting to maintain. So whenever that drops, if it's from evaporation, obviously top it up. Really, really strongly recommend you use a purifier, and as well as that, there's no harm in also using a liquid dechlorinator in your pond after, remembering to treat for the full dosage of the pond. The big bit here is obviously topping up. You should be water changing to some degree. Obviously, you've got to do filter maintenance, and at that point, you're going to lose water one way or another, and you need to top up after that. So I hope that answers the question there for you. See what we've got. Crafty Koi. I was talking to a friend who was discussing if you can have too much in a moving bed. Can you advise? I presume that's on your thoughts, please. Or we have difference of opinions. Yes, you can. Obviously, fluid bed designed, you need to get the right amount of media, because you want the full action. Don't want any dead spots in that filter. And if you condense it with too much media, you're not going to get the free flowing movement of the media that's needed. So in that respect, physically, yes, you can have too much for sure. And it's again tying up the right amount of media for the volume of the chamber, and then getting the right amount of air to physically drive the media properly. And yeah, interestingly, you think this is the mistake I made when I made the diffusers in the bottom of my chambers, was that you think powering loads of air on big air stones and things like that are going to do the job, but it's far better just to use the big air bubbles that you want. So it was actually Jasper at EA who put me right on that one, because after we'd done it, I drilled too many holes, made them too small, thinking it needs to be finer. And yeah, sort of Mark II was a lot less holes, made them a bit bigger, and it works an absolute treat. Similar to obviously the diffuser in the bottom of the Nexus filters as well. So you are right, you can have too much. If you're talking from a biological capacity, that really depends. Interestingly, over years, I've seen some systems that struggle to establish, real strong biological capacity, because sometimes you're just spreading the biofilm a little bit too thin. And it can be good to put a bit of pressure on media sometimes, but the general rule of thumb here is that, yeah, you can't really ever have too much biological filtration. So yeah, the more the merrier in that respect, I think. So we've got last one on one of tonight's. What's the highest water temperature koi can live in happily? So yeah, my polytunnels, I'm sort of at the mercy of them, and I'm a little bit fearful of what's coming at the minute. So the water's sat about 26, 27 degrees at the minute, still looking good. When I've had really severe heat waves in the past, I've had that as high as 32, and yeah, don't like that at all. At that point, they really went off their food. Obviously, oxygen saturation is a real problem at that point as well. And yeah, sort of fish activity levels dipping off a little bit. Admittedly, they were there. I wouldn't say they were super happy. Big difference, you know, seeing if it's sort of 29, 30, it's still manageable. Not great for the fish's colour either, to be honest with you. So I try and do everything we can to sort of, yeah, reduce it as much as possible. But yeah, they'll live in that temperature range quite happily. You've just got to manage the environment and know it's not the best, but ultimately I'm working with what I've got there. So we just deal with what's in front of us. Your ponds outside, I think it's very rare you're going to hit them temperature bands and cause that. I think we're lucky to be able to hit the sort of magical 24, 25 degrees C that time of year, this time of year anyway. So yeah, going beyond it, I really don't think you guys with outdoor ponds, it's going to be a big problem for you there. So there we have it. I'm just going to dig into some of our older ones now as well to go through, because there were some quite good ones. So quite a good one. Can jumbo bloodline koi grow to their full potential in an unheated pond? No, is what I'm going to go with there. You really need, growth is so heavily linked to temperature that yeah, if you're not getting the consistent sort of summers that you need to get growth, it's probably just going to take that long to maximize that jumbo potential, that the actual jumbo potential will fade off and diminish at that point. There comes a point where, you know, enough's enough. Don't get me wrong, you've not got to force them through the thing, you know, seeing these 5-6 year old fish that are hitting these jumbo sizes, that's not essential. If the genetics are there, the potential to get to 90 centimeters plus can be done, you know, over a few years extra. I've seen that, you know, different raising techniques. Genji was a prime example of that, you know, not particularly known for jumbo fish, Genji, but they've quite easily produced fish at jumbo sizes, especially in the Go Sankey lineages. And their raising techniques, you know, you've got Nisai 40, 45 cm, Sanzai 50, 55. It's a slower process. Them fish are just, you know, a lot older when they do eventually get there. If you're really wanting to push extreme sizes, yes, hitting them harder when they're younger and eating every centimetre out every year before that growth potential does diminish is important. That's the sort of techniques we've seen at Momotaro and Sakai and farms like that, but not essential. But either way, without the heat, you're really not going to get that full mass impact that you need. And I don't believe, certainly in the UK, I'm not sure where that question has come from. In the UK, you're going to struggle to do that because water temperatures just aren't good enough. Like I've just said previously, I think we're struggling to sort of get 24, 25 degrees for any prolonged period, which you need for that really maximum growth. So yes, unfortunately, I think it's realistic that, you know, you're not going to get the fullest potential out of them. You'll still get some serious size, you know, 65, 70s, maybe eking up to 75s, you know, over time. I can see that happening, but it's going to take a while and be a struggle. And you've just got to really maximize your opportunity as well when you do get that water temperature. Really eke every bit out of them and really make the most of it. So yeah, good question there. Just have a stroll through. Yeah, probably most people know the answer to this one before I even say it. Can you recommend the colour enhancer? I've had my fish indoors for a year now while building a new pond, and the Benny has gone orange. That's completely normal. I was having this conversation with a customer today, because colour, it's all about, it's just like paint. You know, you're layering it up till you get the sort of finished effect. Colours like that over the years, you're building them layers up until you eventually get the finished sort of high impact coloration that you want. And time is one of the biggest friends to that, in all honesty. But you can influence it as well. And yeah, colour food is needed. So again, the one I would say, Saki Hikari colour is absolutely the one. You'll see a mass turnaround and mass impact very quickly on a short space of time using that stuff. If that's what you really need to focus on as well, it might be worth using that, explicitly. So 100% colour food for a period of time, especially this time of year, to really get that colour back to where you want it. As an alternative, I would say I've used the Coppens spirulina food in the past, had good results. It tends to cause a lot more sort of yellowing to the skin, which can take a little bit longer to reverse as well from my experience, but there is a big price difference between that Saki Hikari. And you'll likely find that Coppens ones under various different brands that dealers use as well. So yeah, from experience there, the two I'd say, but yeah, get on that as soon as possible. And just remember, it's going to take a little bit of time. Getting them back in the daylight is going to be a natural colour enhancer as well, which will have an impact. If you really want to speed that process up, yes, by all means, either of those two will probably do the job according to your budget, to be honest. Just bear with me a moment. There's another one while we're on the food topic. What's the main food producing company that Japanese breeders use? My God, it varies so much. There's quite a popular Japanese one. I think, if I remember off the top of my head, it's called Marubeni. It's not available outside of Japan. I know it's a relatively cheap sort of budget food that a lot of breeders do use. Various different ones have got things going on. I know Hirasawa, Yoshiyuki, Marusei, either of them names he comes under. Is sort of tied up with something. I can't remember the name of it, to be honest with you. But yeah, then moving on, you do see more and more, certainly the big higher class farms where they're commanding the value for their fish using Saki Hikari. It is very prevalent out there. FD tends to be used quite a bit. Don't see it as many farms, to be honest with you. Saki is still regarded as being expensive in Japan, but I mean, it comes in at a fraction of the cost of what, unfortunately, we have to pay for it over here when shipping and everything else is put onto it. But yeah, very, very popular. What you tend to find is with these bigger foods, so you see, I forget his name now, Ryuichi, JPD, yeah, in more and more places as well. But I might be open to correction. I don't think that the JPD is an imported product in the UK. I don't think the actual Japanese one is exported over to the UK, but the one in Japan tends to be quite a lot of breeders using it. From my experience, I do see, like I say, Saki at a lot of places, and yeah, breeders love it. They know how good it is. For some, it's just cost prohibitive sometimes, depending where they're at. But yeah, the high class breeders know it's worth spending the money on because they see the results the same way that I've done, to be honest with you. But yeah, all them brands, what you tend to find is these food companies do actually work really closely with a lot of the big ones as well. So Hikari is manufactured by Purin, and as far as I'm aware, they actually help manufacturing a specific recipe of food for Sakai, for example. And they'll work with breeders like Dainichi as well, adjusting recipes and foods being manufactured for real specific purposes for those farms. But as you can imagine, not a cheap process, and there'll have to be big volumes involved in doing that. But it is something that they do because obviously these guys have got the resources, the knowledge, the know-how to make these things happen. And when you couple that with the knowledge and the breeders, again, tying back into the first bit of the video, the breeders knowing what they need from the fish through just observing it and what they want to achieve, can go to one of these companies and get something tailored to do the job, which is quite impressive and incredible, really. So yeah, happy days. Hope that answers that question. Just dip in and see if we've got some more from tonight. One just come in there. Is JPD food made by Coppens while we're on the food? I don't know, to be honest with you. All I know is, as far as I'm aware, the Japanese foods in the UK that come in, and again, I'm to be corrected on this, Hikari is imported. FD, when it is in the country, is imported as well. But as for JPD, I'm really not sure. But as far as I'm aware, I don't think the same recipes are they're used in Japan are exported out to things. There's certainly a few ones that are quite an aggressive colour food and thing they do that aren't available at all outside of Japan. So yeah, sorry, I can't be of much more help on that one. Right, just bear with me, get back in. Still amazes me how many questions you guys fire in. Certainly going to keep me going for a while. Never seem to quite manage to catch up with them all. Here we go, quite a relevant one. How long would you recommend to leave between each feed at 24, 25 degrees at growth time in order to achieve the best digestion growth rates? So at that temperature, I'm feeding every 2 hours. Sometimes if I've got bigger fish and they don't seem to like the every 2 hour pattern, I might change it to 3 at absolute most. But I tend to find certainly when you hit that going on to the 25 and possibly tippling over it a little bit, you want to be getting that food into them if you certainly want to build body. This is the important bit. Getting that feed timing right is crucial for helping build the body and not stretching the fish out too much. So yeah, every 2 hours and not over a 24-hour period either. I think it's imperative to give them a resting period. Obviously, the fish needs some rest, needs some downtime. So that's why I'll even be in the evening. And my feed regime goes from 6 in the morning till 10 at the evening. You can see there's a huge sort of 8-hour period there where system can catch up, fish can have a rest and a break from it and get ready to get going again the next morning. So always work well. That was one that I learned from some of the guys in Japan when I was working out there in the summer, and it seems to be consecutively, between 2 and 3 hours. I've seen it at Momotaro where they're doing it every 3 hours, but again, primarily with bigger fish there. Everybody will find something different. And like I say, just tying into the first part of the video, none of this is scientific. This is through observation of seeing what works best. I've done it when I've been feeding every hour. I don't seem to like what it does. I think it's just too much too often going into the pond for the filter to break down. The 2 hour one, it's that nice window where I see the pattern as well, to be honest with you. It can tend to be when I get the feeding level right during the 2 hours. So I see the build up. So they feed. They tend to sort of slow down for a period. You can see while digestive happening. Obviously, they'll be pulling a lot of oxygen in to help with digestion at that point. And then midway through, so hitting the hour 20 mark at that point, we see them really coming back, activity levels swarming up to then sort of half an hour, 20 minutes, 15 minutes before activity levels go absolutely nuts because they know that next feed's coming. And it's the process that they've got to. But I think more important than anything with feeding and the feeding pattern is the consistency. And this is where auto feeders are really essential for maximizing growth. You need the consistency in order to sort of manage the feeding levels and get a gauge. Again, nothing scientific in the way that I do it. I mentioned earlier that I use a feeding window. So if it's 5 minutes that I've set or 10 minutes, depending on what I know the pond can handle and what's going on, but we'll use 5 minutes for an example. So initially, from the minute the feed has gone off, they're eating consistently for 5 minutes till they've cleared it all up. A very, very simple system that when those fish are grown and their appetite is increased, all of a sudden they want more food. So what was taking 5 minutes might take 4 minutes or 3 minutes. At that point, I'll start slowly increasing to bring that back up to eating for 5 minutes, and that should compensate for the fish growth at that point. So if you're using a body weight mechanism and calculating, the feed on percentage of body weight, you still need those increases. It's just done in a different way, whereby intermittently you need to reweigh the fish to readjust the feeding levels accordingly. So the two ways of doing it. But again, my methods come from guys in Japan, time spent there working on the mud ponds where, let's face it, it's not practical, or it's actually impossible really to be netting up, to lift fish out, to weigh them. Everything's got to be done by looking at what's happening with the fish, looking at what's happening with the environment that they're in as well. So yeah, really, really essential there. And again, the way they do it, I've just sort of mimicked and put it into a concrete pond environment, and it's certainly worked well for me over the years. But yeah, very, very nice question there. A nice one there. I've seen this crop up. What are the main things to look for when buying single colour koi, and is it better to buy them darker or lighter when smaller? As a general rule of thumb, always lighter. Thinking off the top of my head of sort of colour varieties, so Karashigoi, Yamabuki, first two that spring to mind, generally are always going to be darkening and becoming stronger in colour. So with that process in mind, you can imagine if you start off with a really dark colour, with the Yamabuki, for example, chances it might tip more to the orange sort of hue eventually, a little bit further on, which if you want to avoid that, you definitely need to pick it a lot lighter, probably, substantially lighter than you might want when it's younger, because, in most cases that pigment is going to darken, certainly in our, concrete ponds. And yeah, same with Karashigoi. I think I mentioned this in my last selection video I did with that, looking for the lighter color ones, because I know, especially like with the Akawa Karashigoi I've got, they do all darken and get that darker color anyway. So I don't want it, too much too young, because then it's just going to over darken and I'm not going to get the end result that I want. So important to bear in mind. And again, I can't really, there's not many coming to mind there, but yeah, always rule of thumb, Asagi lighter when they're younger. Just so many varieties that actually really applies to, because of the nature of, sort of concrete ponds and the darkening with age and how our water tends to be. So yeah, cracking question there. Thank you for that one, whoever it was. One in from tonight. In your opinion, who breeds the best shower? Ooh, dear me. There's probably a few there, to be honest with you. I've got to go with Dainichi. I think it's not even in question that they're the best shower breeder out there right now. The lineage is revered. It's the foundation of so many other shower lineages as well, because of the size potential it's had for years, sumi quality, and just everything that they're all about. They're absolutely exceptional. But that said, there's still loads of other breeders I like, and this is what I love about the Japanese koi industry and Japanese koi in general, is that there's variations, and when you get to know breeders and bloodlines, there could be at any point something specific you're looking for in a shower, for example, that leads you down a different path. So it's all right just going, yep, Dainichi, probably unquestionably the best shower breeder that there is, but that still doesn't mean, I'm really fond of the Hoshkin style. Real big soft spot for an ND shower at the minute, because this particular parent fish they're using at this minute in time from Dainichi, funnily enough, is producing some absolutely superb characteristics. They've got a lot of the real sort of strong Kindai style that I like, but they've got these huge jackhammer sort of heads that are just so imposing and really look the business. So yeah, that's something there at this moment in time that's really appealing to me. And yeah, just depending what you're doing, Momotaro are undoubtedly the sort of size champions when it's come to shower. Dainichi obviously aren't lagging far behind, but Momotaro did knock through that sort of limitations in sort of 80, 85 cm, 90 size, and blew it out of the water with Lion Queen back when she won the All Japan 101 cm, whatever it was, 103. Just incredible what they've done. So yeah, I'd go with Dainichi to answer the question directly, but like I say, I think there's a lot of great shower breeders out there, and it really comes down to what you're looking for. Budget will play a part as well. Dainichi's unfortunately out of the realms of reachability for a lot of people because of the price. Therefore, it's looking at the best options, then working within your budget. And like I said, plenty out there, but it's nice to know the quirks, and then for me, working to what your preferences are and finding the right breeder for that, in all honesty. But yeah, good question. Let's have a look. Just got a couple more in now, and I'm going to disappear for this week. I think we've touched on one there previously, but what is the main cause of fin rot? Most of the case, it is a bacterial infection there, which you'd want to get diagnosed and treat it accordingly, unless there's some other circumstances that have led to the fin being damaged and just basically need to be repaired. But if you've got that consistently throughout a lot of fish and it's an aggressive looking infection, it's a bacterial problem that you need to deal with accordingly on that one. Just bear with me one moment. In the past, you said that Ginrin grow less than Wagoi. What I thought to was about, yeah, exactly the same sort of problem, to be honest with you. Again, we don't see many really big. In fact, we don't really see any really big Deutsch fish. They're a rare beast. Deutsch Karashigoi probably being the one exception. But when we're talking about, like Deutsch Showa and things like that, yeah, size is not their friend, to be honest with you. I do know it's something. One of the last times I saw Marihiro, he got this crazy idea about breeding huge Deutsch Showa that he got some parent fish lined up for it, which were dead interesting. And I'm sure, again, there's something with, and this is what it needs. It needs a breeder to turn their attention and resources to it to make changes. But my God, I mean, good Deutsch Showa, for example, are hard enough to do anyway without throwing in the complication of then getting mass size to them as well. So be interesting to see where that goes in future. But yes, typically Deutsch and Ginrin are going to struggle. There are, again, exceptions with the Ginrin. As ever, Momotaro have been one of the guys that's really sort of smashed through that with Ginrin Kohaku, making them a monstrous size as well. Again, they've invested their resources into it and just shown what can be done when that's applied. So it's been the same thing with male fish. When the focus is put on really raising them well and focusing in on the breeding with them, amazing things can be achieved. So yeah, nice question there. Would you ever use propolis as a topical treatment or as a food additive? I'm not big in on the food additive things. For me, it's all about finding a food that I know is ticking all the boxes and just going with that, to be honest with you. It sort of falls into the simplicity and the sort of tinkering thing that I've mentioned. So yeah, rather than muck about, I want to find a food that I know is doing everything it needs to and get on with using that. And that's what I've found in Saki Akari, to be honest with you. It doesn't leave me wanting or know that fish need anything else. And yeah, as a topical treatment, I think there's better things out there. In all honesty, for me, iodine has been a great one when it's needed. There's the treatment, I think Vetark make it. Tamidin is a really good one. It's a really sort of viscose material, and it's just sort of cling and does a good job, because all you need is that moment to obviously clean off the wound when you're treating it and kill the bacteria and get it back in the pond. So yeah, I'm not into to all these sort of the ones out there, big wound sealers, and sometimes aggressive ones as well. Like malachite green, I've seen in the past do more harm than good when it's sprayed directly onto the skin. So I hope that answers the question with that one. And yeah, let's just find one more for this week, guys. So look. Needing a microscope. I know a lot of them did Apex practitioner, but I can't find one in stock. Is that any good? What I recommend? Yeah, I've always gone with the guys at Brunel's. To be honest with you, I think those guys. I've been saying that a lot this week. I just realised. Sorry about that. Yeah, Brunel's always supplied my microscopes. They're very, very helpful. Work. They've got a cracking range of scopes for every sort of budget. The basic kits that they do are fantastic for fish keepers, and they are great with advice as well. So yeah, I'd get onto them, in all honesty. They've been around for years, very reliable, great products. My current microscope, I've got a trinocular one with the sort of camera setup on the top, supplied by them. They're absolutely brilliant. So yeah, that's who I'd go with on that one. Right, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. Good to be back. And we have got some guests lined up. We've been working hard on that. So we're going to be getting some guys, some more dealers in. Got Satchu, I missed one of the weeks where I unfortunately couldn't make it on with quite an interesting setup, looking at some koi development. And then, yeah, some of my dealer friends and colleagues coming on to help fire through some more of the questions and the questions you've got. So as ever, thank you very much for all the questions that you've sent in. Any that we haven't got to, we will store up and work through them as always. And yeah, look forward to tuning in again next week.